But yeah.
And we unintentionally picked out things for sort of a romantic comedy theme this week because our second movie is the Mel. I just noticed that the cover just calls them Mel and Goldie. Were they ever a celebrity couple or something like that?
They were not. No. Goldie Hawn has been in a long time relationship with Kurt Russell,
Oh, that's right.
and Mel Gibson uh, was married to his wife at the time. I don't think she was an actress.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Wait,
Was her daughter Madam
yeah,
Web?
Goldie Hawn's daughter is Kate Hudson.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Man, it's like we had to balance out the good Marvel stuff from X-Men '97 with stuff related. I know Kate Hudson, different actress. Never mind.
Okay.
For some reason,
Although,
I,
yeah.
I'm thinking of what's her name, who's the star of Madam Web, who's a nepo baby,
Oh, Dakota Johnson.
Dakota Johnson. I was mixing her up with that, so never mind.
Yeah, yeah. Dakota Johnson's mom is, I think, Millie Griffith.
Okay,
And
Kate
Don.
Hudson is good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I want to say Wyatt Russell is Goldie's son.
Hmm.
Wyatt Russell played
You are
was
correct.
yeah, yeah. He was John Walker in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The best part of that show, by the way. Um, but
I guess we should talk about the actual movie at hand.
yeah, yeah. I guess we should talk about the actual
So,
movie.
so this was one that we picked mostly because we were scrolling through Netflix looking for a classic thing last week, and neither of us had. I don't think we'd ever even heard of this movie before.
I had seen it on like cable TV, like back in like the 90s and 2000s. I think Comedy
Oh,
Central used to show it every now and then.
did you see it all the way through, or was this back in the days when you'd frequently catch things on cable and just go, "Well, I guess I'm watching it from here on out"?
Um, I just kind of I would just kind of like pop in and watch like a couple of minutes of it, and then I turned it to something else.
Okay.
Yeah. I really didn't know what this movie was about, so yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that it's kind of a basic movie.
Yeah.
Like if Chat GPT existed in the '90s and you asked it to come up with a 4 quadrant movie with a comedic bent, this might have been what it proposed,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
including
Yes.
the somewhat random combination of Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn as the lead characters.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was reading an IMDb trivia. I don't know if this is true because it's IMDb trivia, but apparently it was Kurt Russell was originally supposed to
Mm,
play the male character, but he was doing Tango and Cash, so he couldn't do
okay.
it. Um,
Honestly, I think he was better served in that movie. So,
yeah, yeah. I haven't seen that yet. I might have to check that out. But yeah. So in this movie we got Goldie Hawn, who's a lawyer, and she's in Detroit for a business trip, and she pulls into a gas station, and she runs into Mel Gibson, who looks suspiciously like her dead boyfriend.
yep. And earlier in the actually no, was this earlier or later? I think that before that we find somebody being released from prison and being picked up by his buddy.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so yeah, that the guy being released from prison was I can't remember the character's name, but he's played by David Carradine. I'm sorry. I I cannot see David Carradine in anything without thinking about how he died. I just like
Uh,
ugh,
I can overlook it, but different strokes.
that's true. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, oh, oh,
look, I'm
oh.
sorry. If that's how you die, it's going to
Yeah.
get brought up every time forever.
Yeah, yeah. That's oh. DRHINO, do you know how David Carradine died? I can't hear you. You might still be muted.
Enlighten me.
Oh, okay. He was. This was what, about 15 years ago.
Mhm.
He was in Thailand, and
Oh,
he
okay.
was.
That's okay. Say no
Well,
more.
he.
No, it's
Okay,
different.
okay,
It's different than you think.
It's
Uh,
not
Okay.
quite what you think, but yeah, he was trying to do something to himself. That he was having some happy time with himself, and he was getting a
there was
little
a
too
belt around his neck,
belt
and
around his neck. He pulling a little too hard. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Again. Yeah. I knew where this was going. It's gonna have to be around that subject, of course.
see,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
honestly, Thailand. There's a wide variety of things that could have gone wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to get
Yeah.
off this topic,
Yes.
in terms of things he did right, he was actually a pretty decent villain for this one.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Yeah. And the other villain was Bill Duke, the actor, who most people remember from Predator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so yeah, because and we find out that they're actually corrupt DEA agents, and there was a drug bust that went wrong because Mel Gibson's character stopped it from happening, and but then but he got arrested, and then uh, in order to avoid jail time, he turned on them, and well, of course, what's weird is that it was the FBI that relocated him or did witness protection with him. It's actually not the FBI that does that. That's U.S. Marshals. But yeah.
You know, that's roughly as good of research as they showed throughout the entire rest of the movie.
Yes. But yeah, so Gibson's character, he's in witness protection. He's working under a new identity, and I did like in his introduction scene where he plays a prank on the owner of the auto parts, the auto parts shop where he's working. And if you know anything about Mel Gibson, he is a huge practical jokester. Like, he always plays practical jokes on people on the movies he's working on. Um, but so then his
He pretends that the car has crushed him.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. He's got the fake legs, and of course, and then when you meet him, though, you kind of realize that, okay, there's something off with him, because he talks about how, oh yeah, my dad was selling hair combs in Tennessee, and he said, I thought you said your dad was a hog farmer in Kentucky. Oh yeah.
He moved around.
He moved around, yeah. So you kind of right off the bat, you're like, okay, there's something off with him. And then when Goldie Hawn shows up, and he's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, because she recognizes him, and that's a bad thing when you're witness protection.
Right. Yeah.
Especially when one of the corrupt agents just got in there and deleted all mention of him and all of his identities over the years from the database.
Right. Yes. And the corrupt FBI agent was Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day.
Oh, is it the guy who like would meet him first thing in the morning?
Yeah, Phil Connors. Ned.
So yeah, so the two of them meet up, and they end up in sort of a road comedy situation where you have these two agents who are, multiple FBI agents trying to chase them down.
Yes. Yeah, because the owner of the auto parts store where Gibson's working gets killed, and they think he did it. The police think that they did it, and so they're not only running from the bad guys, but they're also running from the cops. And so Gibson's trying to figure out how to get out of it, and so he goes back to all these different identities that he had to try to work his way out of this situation.
I'm going to say that's going to sound really funny and sad.
Yeah.
If I compare this movie to last week's movie, Starman, somehow it feels like the police and the military cared more about these two than they did about an actual alien.
Yeah.
Or at least they were in more hot pursuit because you felt like the characters were in danger more often.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Um, and but yeah, and of course it all the climax of the movie is in they end up at the zoo in St. Louis because he the whole thing is he's got to get to St. Louis because there's this old guy there that's like a friend of his that can help him out.
Right, like he had been his agent with the in the FBI, handling his relocations for years, but he had recently retired.
Yeah, and yeah, of course. And then when they get there, they get to St. Louis and they see him. They find out why he retired because his memory isn't what it used to be.
So
Um,
completely useless to them.
yeah. So then they go to the zoo and they have this whole big climactic fight with a lot of different, you know, in the whatever the rainforest era. So you had an area. So you had a lot of carnivorous animals in there.
Lions and tigers and jaguars. Oh my!
Yeah, and chimps were in there.
Yeah.
There's some chimps.
Okay, so the animal lover nerd wannabe biologist in me was just so offended by that last scene. I eventually just had to throw up my hands and stop thinking because that might be the worst exhibit I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Like if the humans can climb out of something, the tigers surely can climb out of it.
yeah.
And there were no clear dividers between the different things. It's like, okay, how did that iguana not become tiger chow at some point?
Yeah.
Or chimp chow for that matter?
Yeah.
But so I think if we look at this from like a strengths and weaknesses perspective, major strength of the movie is the sheer imaginativeness of the set pieces.
Yeah.
Because you get a wide variety of scenarios. You get a cool car chase, including a scene where you suddenly have this motorcycle cop who's chasing them when were they on a motorcycle or a bicycle or they weren't.
They were on a motorcycle. Yeah.
Yeah, they were on a motorcycle and they managed to clear this cement. The cop does not.
Yeah.
You have a scene where another scene where they're on a motorcycle driving through a hair salon. You have them high up in the air, moving between two buildings across a narrow beam. And Mel Gibson's stunt double was did a great job with that one. Because funny how whenever he was dangling off the edge, you didn't ever see his face.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
Yes.
But like the big you have a scene with them at a horse or at a animal hospital where they're fighting guys in a helicopter with his really badass ex who Mel's really badass ex who like is really handy with that shotgun.
Oh yeah, she was. Yeah. They had the whole chase with the helicopter and the plane, the biplane.
Yep.
Yeah. Probably most of the movie's budget probably went into that whole sequence.
Yeah, that and the whole thing with the animals at the end.
Yeah,
because this was before they could just CGI a tiger in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this has better action scenes than some more legit action movies we've reviewed.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. And what was interesting too is with Gibson's character, like he's not like he's not some like government agent. He's not a soldier or anything like that. He's just like a guy who, if he knows any fighting, it's from, getting in fights in bars.
Right. Rough and tumble con man type.
Right. Yeah.
And Goldie Hawn's character is just completely out of her depth.
Oh yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of a bit of Romancing the Stone, kind of a similar vibe to it.
I've never actually seen that movie.
I've seen parts of it. I've never seen it all the way through.
I'll have to throw that onto the list. But Now, as far as possible weaknesses, this would also be one of the strengths too. It's weird. It took a while for it to grow on me. Mel and Goldie arguing with each other starts off annoying and gets better as the movie goes along.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, like the scene in the hotel was kind of getting frustrating because it was like they weren't talking to each other; they were talking like at each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like and he's in the shower because he took some buckshot in the butt, so he's just like, I got shot in the butt, here.
Right.
And she's just getting on him like, what did you do? You thought you were dead.
Right. It's like, I sympathize that you're in this awful situation because of his bad choices in the past, but
Yeah.
what is he supposed to do about it in the moment?
Yeah.
But the chemistry does improve as the movie goes along.
Yeah.
I would say that I found some of the way that they it was interesting. Like one of his past identities said he had been a hairdresser. He had clearly been pretending to be gay for everybody there.
Yeah.
That kind of just came off as genuinely uncomfortable.
Yeah, especially when he's talking to his old boss. It's like,
yeah. I don't know. Like it's the entire joke of the scene was gay.
Yes, in more ways than one. I don't know if I could say that on YouTube.
What he means is that it peddles in somewhat offensive stereotypes, but it doesn't have the decency to wrap a better joke around it. The offensive stereotype is the entire basis of the joke.
Yes, thank you.
And while I'm not the one to get bent out of shape about that, it just came off wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's it was a decent movie. I can kind of understand why it's not talked about more.
Right, which is weird because we looked it up, and this movie made like almost $140 million at the box office in 1990,
which is a good haul. Yeah,
especially for this sort of movie. Like this is not a swing for the fences type movie. This is just two name actors. I jokingly said this was a Chat GPT 4-quadrant movie, but you got action, you got comedy, you got romance, you got a wide variety of situations. You got comedy. If I did I already say list comedy?
Yes, a comedy. Yeah.
Well, they tried to do multiple types of comedy, so we'll say that's why it counts.
Okay, yeah.
I wouldn't bring a kid to this one at all.
No, it's a little. I think it's PG-13, but it's still a little.
That's right there on the. I'd say it's kind of skirting the edges of PG-13 in places.
Yeah, it's the language isn't bad, but it can get a little. Especially the climax was pretty violent.
Yeah,
but
so, but if you're an adult type person, it was on Netflix though. It just left on the 30th. I guess the license ran out.
Yeah.
So not sure where you could watch it today though. So when I tried to find a picture of the cover for it, all I found were people's photos of the VHS. Yeah. So I don't know if it's currently available on a more modern format.
Yeah, good.
Let's find out. Bird on a Wire. Okay, it did go to DVD eventually and Blu-ray.
Okay. Yeah, another quick note I wanted to make. Little odd thing, but the director of the movie, his name was John Badham. I believe that's how you pronounce it. He also directed Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah, like this is a weird movie. Like it, it feels like it doesn't actually exist, even though we clearly watched it.
Yeah.
Like, what was it? Was it in Last Action Hero where they're in the VHS store and they have the movies that don't actually exist?
Yeah.
The Blockbuster, the movies don't actually exist. That's what this feels like. This feels like a fake movie that would be on like the wall in another movie.
Yeah.
Also, it's named for a Leonard Cohen song, but then they have somebody else cover it for the soundtrack.
Yeah, it was. That was Aaron Neville.
Yeah, so it's
Doing
like
it,
if
yeah.
if you told me, oh yeah, there's totally a movie that's named after Leonard Cohen's song, but they cover it with Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn in an action comedy. Like, what? That sounds fake. You're making this up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a thoroughly decent time. It's just not one of the all-time greats.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah.